Hi there, my name is Joel, and I'd like to introduce you to someone, a little orange cat named Ginger. Ginger lived on a sailing ship a long time ago. I'd like to read you a story about his life. Chapter 1 from Ginger, the ship captain's cat. In a restaurant kitchen, Davina Kinney made amazing pictures for every story. That's Ginger looking out a window. We'll see how the window matters later. In a restaurant kitchen. A long time ago, there was an orange cat named Ginger. He lived on a sailing ship. Ginger was the ship captain's cat. Ginger went everywhere with the captain of the ship. When they stopped at a port, Ginger always went with the sailors when they rowed into town. He always found something interesting to do. He liked meeting new cats and seeing people and watching what was going on. He enjoyed traveling the world. One time, they stopped in Yokohama, Japan. Ginger went ashore in the morning with the sailors. He went for a walk and looked around like he always did. Ginger knew they'd be leaving on the evening tide, so he had all day to wander the streets of Yokohama. Later in the day, as he was heading back to the ship, he smelled something. He smelled one of his favorite smells in the world, a smell which is the reason he loved living on a sailing ship and sailing on the ocean. He smelled fresh fish. He looked down the nearby alley. Some men with a cart were unloading fish and carrying them through a doorway. Ginger ran down the alley and climbed up on the step to see where they were taking that fish. He was so interested in the fish, he didn't notice another group of men right behind him carrying another bunch of fish. He couldn't get past them, and he didn't want to be stepped on, so he went right through the door and found himself in the kitchen of a restaurant. He scooted sideways under a table. The men carrying the trays of fish didn't even see him. All the men went through the kitchen and put the fish into a big refrigerator. Ginger stayed under the table. The men finished unloading the fish. Then they left and shut the door behind them. Ginger could see it was getting late, and he was trapped in the kitchen of a restaurant. He looked for a way out and saw a window way up high. He jumped up onto a table, which is not a good thing, a cat on a table in a restaurant. From the table, he jumped up into the windowsill. He looked out the window. He tried to push it open, but it didn't move. As he sat down to think, two people came into the kitchen. It was the chef and his sous chef, his assistant. The chef had a meat cleaver, and his assistant had a very big knife. Ginger sat very, very still. The two chefs started chopping things up, getting ready to prepare meals. Waiters and busboys and other people came and went through the big flapping doors between the kitchen and the dining room. Once in a while, when the kitchen door swung open, Ginger could see through the restaurant to the front door. It was standing open so people could come in from the warm evening and sit in the restaurant. Through the front door, Ginger could see the street. He wondered if there was any way he could get through the kitchen door and out through the restaurant without anyone catching him. It was getting dark, and he knew the evening tide was soon. He knew the tide doesn't wait for any ship, so the ship doesn't wait for anyone, not even the captain's cat. Ginger sat perfectly still, looking through the kitchen door, hoping he could dash through when it was open, then run out through the dining room. But he could never tell when the door was going to open. Boom! It would open and someone would come through. Then it would slam shut again. He was as worried as a cat can be. Maybe if he stretched, he could see when the door was going to open. When he moved, the chef saw him out of the corner of his eye. The chef looked up, and there, in his kitchen, was a cat. The chef screamed in Japanese. Then he threw the great big meat cleaver at Ginger. Ginger ducked, and the meat cleaver smashed through the window. Ginger went right through after it. As he landed on the ground, the chef ran into the alley. Ginger ran down the alley as fast as he could while the chef stood in the alley yelling. He ran all the way back to the dock where the sailors were waiting to row out to the ship. He'd made it. He jumped in the boat and curled up in a dry spot next to one of the sailors. Ginger thought he would stay out of kitchen restaurants from now on. A kitchen is no place for a cat, especially a ship captain's cat. I hope you enjoyed that. This is the book I wrote about Ginger, Ginger the ship captain's cat. That's me, Joel D. Canfield. And beautiful illustrations, including this cover by Davina Kinney. Would you like to hear more Ginger stories? Let me know in the comments, because I'd be glad to share more of them. Bye-bye.